All right, welcome everybody. So Christopher Reeves is going to be leading a class for audio middleware for the Indie Game Academy. And I will hand it over to Chris and let me know if you need any help.
So do I share my screen now?
You can share your screen or however you're going to do it.
Hell yeah. Okay, so I've never taught anything before, so this is gonna be fun. Let's see, this is here. I'm going to share my screen because I know how to do that very well. And I lost my window. There it is. Okay. Okay, you guys can see this?
Yep.
Okay, I need to change my audio preferences in Wwise to Zoom. Okay, so wow, what is Wwise and what is audio middleware? I would say first, Wwise is ugly. It's a very ugly program. Look at this program. It's hideous. But it is powerful. And I could feed you a lot of spiel about what the heck Audio Kinetic says, but we're not going to do that. Essentially, what Wwise does is it is a sound engine that interfaces with Unity, Unreal, even some homemade in-house engines to take a lot of the weight off of the programmers' backs. And you'll see what I mean. I've got an example. We'll dive into Unity and you'll see some examples of how it makes things a lot faster and a lot simpler. And really, you don't need coding for a lot of the things and a lot of scripting you would need. It takes that load off their back. But man, it sure is ugly. Okay, so we've got some examples here set up. We've got things that are going to be making some of the programming easier. Like we have things called states, and that can help play music, transition music. Like here we have the Wwise project to Alien Age. And as you can see here in the bottom left corner, we had a lot of different ages. Like we had the premise of the game is you level up this Stone Age town you have to different ages through collecting materials and building items to get your ship off this planet. So you would progress by leveling up these towns. And so what we did is we assigned something called a state to each town, and in association with that state was music. So here we have city music, and we had 4 different ages. We had the Bronze Age, Stone Age, Machine Age, and Space Age. So we just assigned a states. In our game syncs folder, you can go to states, and well, you just make a state, and then you associate that state with a certain type of music. So here we'll play city music, which is a switch controller. So we'll play it, and then nothing happens because we have our age state and our game state set to nothing. Not only do we have states associated with certain assets in the game, but we also have it set to the player's health state. I don't know what that means. Okay, so here we have a game state called either you're playing the game or you're not. Either you have failed the game or you are still playing the game. So that we have called gameplay. And that says that the player is alive. And then we have another state that corresponds to each age. So let's go to,
Chris, so in this context, an age is similar to the level or an indication of progression.
Yes. And you can assign it to really anything. You can assign a state to an asset, and the presence of that asset is the state in the context that we're using it here. if that makes any sense.
So a state could also be like moving or idle or
Yep.
jumping.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah.
So then that's like a Wagnerian motif when the character shows up. It'll trigger their song, that kind of thing.
Yes. If you spawned a character into, if a character appeared in, you could assign, you can also assign states to certain animations. Like if a character is doing something, you can assign a state that that character is,
Like
I don't know.
sneaking or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then that associative state, you can, I'll dive in sort of what you can do with those states, because it gets really, really deep. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this tool.
Like another a clear audio example we probably all have in our head is when you become invincible in Mario.
Yeah, exactly.
The music
Yeah.
changes and everything. There's
Yeah.
a new sound effect based on that temporary state, which then changes later.
Yeah, and they
Oh
could,
God, it's instantly in my head.
yeah, exactly. I don't, that could be tied to the effect, the visual effect, whatever animation thing that they have. They know once this is triggered, it has a state of this, and then Wise knows to start playing this music because that state is now associated with it. So right now we have a game state of gameplay, which means the player is alive. And then we will say, you know what, shout out to my boy, Danny. We're going to play Machine Age. Danny wrote the music for Machine Age. So now you'll hear music start playing. Can you guys hear that?
Yep.
Hell yeah. So we have Machine Age playing, and then we can switch it to a different state. We can go Space Age. Shout out to me, boy. So between these states, you can see, or you can kind of hear that it's fading out and fading back in throughout the different states. So there is something in Wwise called transitions, where you can transition between state switches. You can transition between any piece of audio, aside from things in the actor mixer that aren't in the interactive music hierarchy. And you can transition between any other piece of music. So we've got a bunch of rules set up here that says, whenever I am in Stone Age and I transition to Bronze Age, I would like to exit that source on the next beat. And what that means is in Wwise, we can define the BPMs of the piece of music that we're using. And then Wwise is so smart and so intelligent, but so ugly, but so smart. It knows this is going to be on the next beat. I'm going to transition this piece of music to the next piece of music. So, and what we can do with that. So this is defined as the moment the game sends the call of we're in a different state, Wwise waits till the next beat so it's more musical, and then we'll fade out the music because I've enabled fading out, and then we can edit the fade out, and we can define the time, the offset, which is where the fade out occurs, and we can define how long it takes it to fade out, if it fades out at all, and then we can also fade in the other track. And there's a bunch of stuff that you can do with transitions. It's a gosh darn rabbit hole. Okay, wow, how well is this going so far? Okay, RTCPs. Okay, those are real-time parameter controls. I don't know why I put it RTCP because it's RTPC. Okay, so for this example, we have a lot of different music that isn't going to make any sense because I cobbled it together and they're from like 3 different games. So what we have here is a real-time parameter control where I've set up this system to where every time you pause the game, there's something called a low pass filter that's going to take place over the music, which essentially just lets the lower frequencies of the music through. So it's going to sound. Okay, so we're going to play this. We have a game pause parameter in our RTCPs, and in Logic, or not in Logic, in Unity, you would just assign, in your script, you would just assign this RTCP to there's some sort of script. I've only seen it once from the engineer side of things, but there's something in the code where you can just assign, this is within this call, you can set a thing called it's called an AK RTCP, and then you can call that up in Unity, and then either assign it a 0 or a 1 or 50 and a 90. It doesn't matter. Here I've gone through 0 and 100. Those are just arbitrary numbers that I decided to choose. Well, anyways, so here's the effect. So this is the classic Chris Reeves music, am I right? I mean, this guy, does he ever miss? Okay, so we're hearing music, right? And then, so now we are in, there's no pause game or anything going on. Oh shit. So I set up it to be really short so I could go over this example here, which is sequence transitions, I think they're called, but I'll show you what those are in a bit. I'll just try to shut up so I can show you this quickly so it doesn't happen again. Okay, so the game is not paused, correct? And now the game, when it's at 100, now it'll transition, and then only those low frequencies are coming through. So you can't, so it sounds like kind of muffled. And then we unpause the game. And now it transfers to some other music because I didn't do it fast enough. So that's another example of something you can do in Wwise. Yeah, it honestly, it's really, really cool. And these are like, I'm barely skimming the surface of the amount of stuff you can do in this program. Like, I haven't set up any examples of switches, but we're talking about Wwise will handle you walking on different surfaces. Like you can walk on concrete, grass, and Wwise will literally, all you have to do is assign a state of, hey, when it, with this asset of grass, just set a state of grass or set a switch to grass, and then Wwise will literally take care of all of it. It'll be like, oh, this is grass. I know that I have in this container a switch assigned to grass, and it'll automatically just take care of all of it for you. I'll show you something in Unity real quick. David, you should be familiar with this. This was the original Alien Age test thing before Danny's really fancy one. So we've got some assets here. So this is essentially how you're going to be hooking up Wwise into Unity with the simpler stuff. So what we've done is we've started off the rip, as the kids say, some music. And then with this collision enter, we have a trigger set to where we're going to play a different sound with Wwise. So when we play here, you guys actually might not be able to hear this. Oh, oh.
No, we can hear it.
Hell yeah. All right, so we're this fancy character right here. If I can move him. Oh, there it is. So we hear those drums, right? And then the collision is on top of those cylinders. So when we enter the cylinder, the sound changes. It sounds like psychedelic chickens or something. I don't know. It was a hard. So yeah, we transition in and out. we've created rules in Wwise. I don't think I have this Wwise project anymore, but we created transition rules in Wwise to say we want to transition like this, fading in and out. And it can just, the rules can get so complex and so complex. Okay, so back to this. So now what I have set up here is I have a series of logic to where, let's just say I wanted to make music that was sort of different every time you heard it. Like, what we're going to do is we're going to play this holiday music, very of the season. And then we're going to play some jazz music I wrote for Warrior in the next step, which is very of the season. If you think about jazz musicians just writing Christmas songs because they think it's cool, but it's not. It's not cool. Okay, stop trying to turn everything into jazz. Just let things be things sometimes. Okay. And then we've got some other things here. We've got some, I don't know what this is. I don't remember what I put here, but it's a different thing. And then we have another thing. So the way I designed this logic is it's going to always play this first step. And then when we play, after this is done playing, through defining an exit cue, and I'll talk about what exit cues are and how we can seamlessly loop things and how we can infinitely loop things, all with Wwise. You don't have to, as a composer, these things make writing music so much easier because I don't have to write really simple and really segmented things. I can write a piece of music that starts off with an introduction and then leads into things. And through Wwise, I can decide when it stops, when it starts again, where it stops, and where, if it loops, where can I enter this loop again without it's going through, like, let's just say I have a really quiet introduction without playing that introduction again, and I can lead into a further piece of music further into the song. But yeah, so we're going to play this and you'll see the how this logic is going to work. We're going to play this first piece of music, and then it's going to randomly select either this Warrior Jazz or new music segment. And then after it plays that once, it is going to go to new music segment 1. And then it is going to go back and pick from this pool randomly of only 2 songs. So it's a 50-50 chance, which if you're going to do this, then yeah, obviously you're going to put a much larger amount. And there's actually even multiple ways of doing this, as is the Wwise way. There's a million ways to do a million things. And I'll go into a more in-depth way of doing this and how you can just really, it gets complicated. But yeah, so here we'll play this. So this should only be like 10 seconds long. I think I defined it. You can't hear it in this clip, but this Christmas song actually had banjo in it. God, whoever wrote this piece, what a genius. Banjo Christmas? Obviously those things go together. Okay, or it just skipped all of it. That's great. So I'm actually really smart and I'm really good at just making my logic very sound. Okay, so what it's done is it's skipped this. I think it's because I have this on random step as opposed to random continuous, but that's okay. Okay, so now it's just gonna, on another project I have, I'm working on, so where it would be random step, it has a pool of about 7 different loops, not 7 different, totally different pieces of music, 7 different loops of the same song. But some of them have saxophone solos, some of them have more dialed back instrumentation to give a break to the ear. And it's got 7 different loops. So how the logic will be is set up. It's intro, then the first verse, if you want to call it that. And then it picks from a pool of 7 different loops. It picks 3 songs or 3 loops out of those 7 loops. And then it goes to the next line where it'll play one of 4 drum fills that I've made. And then it'll go back to those 7 loops, draw 3 more random loops, and then just rinse and repeat. So really, you'll never hear the same song twice. And it really provides a, I do drugs. Man, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was on drugs when I came up with the name. Yeah, so you'll never hear the same song twice. So it really helps the music not get annoying, and just helps it, I don't know, feel really fresh. So how we define sort of how our music is going to be infinitely looping is, so we have, don't get me started about the different layouts of, I'm in the wrong one. I should have stayed in interactive. So within our music containers here, so man, Unity and Wise, they love their hierarchies. So within our, let's go to this RTCP test. So we've got, within our music container, we have a music playlist, and within our playlist, we have the actual song file. So in this song file, that's where we can define our entry cues. This is just where, this is the playhead. This is just where we're at. This green is where we're always going to enter the cue at. This exit cue is where we're going to exit the cue at. And then I've cut down this file. It's actually quite a long song. And we can define it. I set up in this, if you wanted this container to loop infinitely, you would not have set up the logic that I have done, which is to, switch between all those different songs in a sequence. But you can define that really easily. You would just define your exit cue. Where do you want this thing to cut off? You can make a new cue and be like, this is where I want it to start, this green, but I can make a new cue. And then this is where, when it loops, this is where I want it to start again. And then you would go into the music container, and instead of doing all of this crazy stuff, you would just keep it on your loop count as infinite, and then it would play an infinite amount of times. Man, this is going very well. Man. Thank you. Okay. I will say, when building for mobile platforms, Wise is challenging because Apple likes to make things difficult to develop for. So Wise's sound engine for iOS is like 2 gigabytes, which makes GitHub not a great place to work together, because I think your limit is what, 150 megabytes, if that, or something. And yeah, so one of the other project, we had to transfer the sound engine. So I had to send them the sound engine outside of GitHub so that they could download it, just so they would be able to make builds with it. It works great other than, trying to actually build your game. It's just too large. But for some reason, Android, Mac, and Windows, it works flawlessly. It's really a powerful engine. Man, do I have other things? you know? I told myself in my head I wasn't going to talk very fast so I could like stretch this out as fast as or as long as I could. But then here I am. I'm just fucking zipping and zapping. Also, what you can do. Oh, sorry.
I would ask, so it probably also has just regular audio tools for doing things like changing pitch or changing speed and stuff like that. Okay, that's great because the Unity onboard audio tools are really, really rudimentary.
So I think, so I can do this right now. I think it should take like a few seconds. So let's see if I can.
So like one thing I was running into in Unity is that when you just the onboard tool adjusts the pitch, it's just a basic tool that also speeds it up.
Yeah, but when you speed it up in Unity, it also pitches it up, right?
Right. Well, yeah. It's just the same control that does both.
Yeah, I don't know. So I've never sped something up in Wise. I know that a lot of composers have, like I use Logic as my main DAW, and they're it's called time stretch in Logic, either compressing it or stretching it out, and it will not increase the pitch of the sound. It'll just speed up the playtime of it. But I don't know if
that was a problem I was encountering when I was trying to use it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I have no idea. You know, maybe they just time stretch it and they have something that automatically can, you know, do the math. If we're stretching it this much, then we increase the pitch to this, and then they just pitch it down, back down. And I guess you could do that as well, but I don't. That'd be rather hard to do in Unity.
So it sounds like obviously you have to like connect Wise to Unity, but then like beyond that, for the rest of the team, it's mostly just like engineers just need to make sure that they put like the code hooks in for Wise to pick up and play the right stuff at the right time.
Yeah, so back to this example, you can see it on the right hand side. I would say most of it, I think RTCPs. Why do I keep on calling them RTPCs? Real-time parameter controls are the only things that I've seen that you've actually have to go into your scripting to hook up. Everything else, at least from what I've worked on, seems to be pretty non-code based. Like you're just hooking up triggers, events, or attaching states to things, and then Wise is pretty much taking care of the rest. Like you can see on this, we made a collider, and then we attached a trigger inter event. An AK event is just an audio kinetic Wise event, and then we hooked it up to the game object, and we said when we want to pass in through this collider, that's when we want the music to transition.
So what you have here is basically a state machine governing the sound.
Yeah. There's also, to your pitch thing, you can, in Wise, not only can you can trigger sound effects. Like, let's just say you were shooting a gun in a game. So you can take multiple sound effects of the same gun, because the gun never sounds the exact same, right? It's always going to have like a slight alteration. So if you were to record the same gunshot or the same gun like 5 times shooting, you could take each one of those shots, put them into Wise, and then Wise, you can set up Logic in Wise to where it will randomly select each one of those recordings and never play the same one twice. Or even further than that, you can even set it up in Wise to where it will slightly alter the pitch at random. You can set parameters of, you can go, I don't know, 4 semitones below and 4 semitones above, and then it will randomly select that to where not only are you randomly selecting from a pool of 5 sound effects, but you're also randomly changing the pitch between those. So very rarely will you hear the same one twice. We even have some, so we have in Alien Age, we had a hovercraft, we had a UFO, some may call them. And this UFO would either hover or move. So, and you can see up here, we added some transition states between them. So we had state-based movement. So either your UFO was hovering or if it was moving. If it was hovering, it sounded like this. Wow. Who is the genius that came up with this? Oh my God. I mean, I don't need to toot my own horn. And when it's moving, it sounds like this.
Oh, that's fun. And so then you can pitch that to like the speed even if you wanted to.
Exactly, yeah. You could make it to where it's randomly. So we didn't do that for the hovering. I kind of already did it in my audio workshop. I had my synthesizer, which is what the UFO sound effect is based off of, randomly go up and down in pitch. So, but the only problem with that is that will always, I mean, it's so random that no one would ever be able to hear that and be like, oh, that's the same movement sound playing again and again. But it will always sound like that because it's printed in the sound file. Whereas you're right, if you were doing that through Wwise would truly make it random every time because it's like in real time creating these things randomly, not just I don't know, me printing them on the same sound effect. Do you guys have any questions? Dear God, I'm out of it. I'm out of the stuff. I'm trying to think of what else to explain. That's pretty much it. It's powerful. Powerful tool. That's
Is it free?
So it is free, kind of. So if you, I believe, David, you can correct me more on this. I think if you're under $150,000 of a budget, it is free to use. If you go over that.
Okay, yeah, so just in case I happen to become a wealthy developer at some point.
Yes.
Yeah. The one requirement I remember is that you do have to like go to their website, like register the project, and they give you like a key and you put that into your Wwise project so that like I assume just so that they know like who's using it and what it's being used in.
Yeah.
And that's all we needed to do to be like licensed.
After 150,000, do you pay like, I think it's like $18,000 or something like that? And then I think it's like, or no, $18,000 is if it's like $1.5 million or something like that. It's an insane amount of money you're making. So you
I was thinking jumping from 0 to 18,000. That's a pretty steep price hike.
Yeah,
but you got $1 million budget. Who cares?
Yeah, the amount of money you're making, that's such a minute cost, you know.
Yeah. So they seem to have a reasonably practical sliding scale of cost.
If you're raking it in, they just want a piece.
Yeah.
Start over.
What?
I'm just kidding. It was a joke.
Oh.
We got time to start over.
I could do the entire speech again and then we would still be on time. Okay. Let's see. We had a bunch of different
Are there any things that like when they're first starting out, it's like Willem's thing is usually like when you're first starting out in Unity, learn how to like maintain a really clean like hierarchy for like your files and stuff. Is there anything like that in Wwise where it's like, hey, don't do this when you're first starting because it will turn into a mess?
Yes, I would say definitely think about it as much as you can. When I don't know, every time I've started a project in Wise, it's been extremely early on in the game cycle. So I haven't been able to like conceive an idea of like what kind of containers are going to be used. Just try to stay organized as much as you can. And so in Wise, you're going to be using something called events. That's how you're actually going to be triggering this music. You're going to be triggering events. So in Alien Age, we had, look at all these different events we have. Play drop off sound effect. We have play boost, all this different stuff. So just keeping in mind that you have like hierarchies of hierarchies going into other hierarchies. So just keeping everything, I don't know, segmented as much as possible, and keeping in mind your player sounds you're not going to want to mix with your UFO sounds, and keeping everything as separated as you possibly can. Because when it comes down to, so how these things are actually going to be triggered is in your game, you're going to load a sound bank, and in those sound banks are going to contain events. So you're going to load, you can split up sound banks. So, you know, if you're in level 1, we're going to have a sound bank for you that contains all the level 1 sounds. So that's going to contain all the level events. You don't, if you're loading, you know, the entire game's worth of sound, that's a lot of memory to load in. So we can split it up in banks. So your level 1 sounds are going to contain all the level 1 events, which is going to contain all the level 1 music containers, which is containing all the level 1 sound effects and all this shiznit, as the children say. Yeah, I don't remember the question. Yes.
Tips for like when you're first starting out, don't make this mistake. Which sounds like just make sure you stay organized.
Yeah. When me and Danny first started this project, I mean, I wouldn't even consider this organized. We have duplicates of things. We have, I don't know. We have very generalized stuff. We've got music, and then city music, UFO music, main menu music. I think those should all be separated, and those should be a little bit more specific. Also, we have animal sounds, which isn't even a thing. I don't know if he put it in a sound bank. So you can see all these.
Maybe agree on your naming convention early.
Yes. Also, you think about it from an engineer's point of view, maybe have an open dialogue with them, and don't be like, hey, kazoo horn is what I called the trigger to start the walking sound. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Try to make it, I guess, as on the nose as possible so that they understand what it is, and try not to double name things, or I don't know.
Horn an actual instrument in this? Because if that's true, that is, I would like to hear it. I would be interested to see what that sounds like.
It's a DLC instrument, so you have to pay money for it.
That's interesting.
So yeah, I don't know. There's
this isn't a wise question. This is more of just a sound person question. When you're playing games, what are the things that just for you make a game sound like it's professionally designed in terms of sound design? And what are the things that are like tip-offs to you that something has been, that make it feel amateurish or make it feel unfinished?
Oh. You, David, am I allowed to curse?
I mean, when have I ever stopped you before?
You done fucked up. You done fucked up because I'm about to rant. Okay.
No, I really want to know, because I don't have a good. I'm not an auditory processor, so I don't naturally pick up on these things. But
I've
I
been
certainly have a
waiting.
lot of opinions about like graphics and what makes your game look unprofessional or unfinished. So lay it on me.
I am a hot button trigger away from ranting about Psychonauts 2 at any point in time. Okay. So Psychonauts 2, the legendary Peter McConnell. There is an entire level in Helmut Fullbear's mind where there is music being triggered. You go through the grass and it starts a flanging, or it might not be a flanger. I think it's just an oscillating high pass filter from entering the grass. Like who the fuck does that? It sounds amazing. Like when you walk on this rainbow, you're actually, I don't know the exact instrument he's playing. It's got to be like some xylophone or something, or some synth equivalent. Every step you take, you're playing up the scale of the background music that you're playing. Every environmental thing you come in contact with is playing a song, or either interacting with the background music, or your movement is playing music with the background music. You've got your whole shtick is that you're like finding like instruments to put back to Fullbear's mind. And the further you progress, so at the start of the level, it's kind of quiet. There's not much going on. And then you're finding these instruments, and then more and more music is coming in, because the crescendo of the level is like this giant concert that plays, and all these different elements have finally come together. And then, oh my God, Helmut's brain is put back together. But just the further you explore into the level, the more and more sound creeps in. Just the level design and the music is so well integrated. It's fucking insane. Yes.
So that's an example of good music design, but I think Gwen was asking what's an example of like bad audio design,
Oh.
like what stands
Well,
out as like
not necessarily like games you want to rant about, but like if you're a small timer like us, like what
something
are
to avoid.
basic things that you avoid,
Oh.
or simple things you can do that will like elevate it and make it sound more professional.
I mean, I think a big chunk of it is just how intrusive it is.
Yeah, exactly. Like things that don't loop well are, if you can hear, I think a sign that you have a bad sound designer, and I've been guilty of it. Shout out to Synthwave or Synth Racer. The tracks didn't loop well. And if you tried to loop them, you would hear an auditory pop. If you can hear pops,
Ooh, that's bad. Yeah.
You can, like when it starts, and what that is there's just too much information at the tail of it. And then when it starts, that sound wave doesn't match up. So you can hear that pop take place. And that gets really annoying. That transitions not working well, very abrupt things. You want to try to mask as much shit changing as you can. It's like, I don't know, just with like flashing images, flashing sounds is not very good. I mean, unless that's the style. So yes, very unpsychonauts. Don't be psychonauts, and then that's how you know it's bad. Everybody be psychonauts. Just create psychonauts too, and you'll be fine.
Great life advice right there.
Yes. Yeah, there's I don't know. David, can you speak firsthand of how much I fucked up? Like, let's see. We'll use me as an example. Not cohesive sounds. There was a sound effect in Alien Age that was a town alarm. And then so you're playing this nice game and there's all this peaceful music taking place. And it's like, wow, this is really calming and relaxing. Until one of your towns is about to collapse. And then you just hear this fucking boat horn. It's like fucking DEFCON 7. Like the world is about to explode. Very, yeah, it doesn't fit well together. That is another thing. You want the tone of the music and sound effects to kind of fit a similar role. Also, this is that voice pitch thing I was talking about. If you go in here, you can enable it and it randomizes the pitch.
Hey, Chris, what kind of music do you listen to in your free time?
This is going to sound kind of, I don't know if it sounds shallow, but at least in the past, since we started IGA 1, it's whatever project I'm working on. That's the type of music I'm listening to. So right now, I'm listening to jazz. I'm listening to a lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'm listening to a lot of Daft Punk's Random Access Memories. I'm listening to a lot of Peter McConnell, his Broken H2 soundtrack. Let's see. Do you guys like satanic black metal?
Yes.
Yeah, just it, at least for now, all of my music listening is for research and work. I'm not casually just turning something on to listen right now, but maybe in a few months I will be doing that, like
Wow.
actually listening for pleasure.
Now I get it. It's very rare that I get to read a book that's not a book that is something that's research for something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when you're grinding right now, when it dies down, yeah, then maybe I'll listen to some Hello Goodbye or something. I don't know. Hello Goodbye. Shout out to early 2006. Yes.
Okay, cool. All set?
Oh my God, we made it 50 minutes.
We did.
Holy Lord. I would like to say thank you guys for
Yep.
asking me questions.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much,
Appreciate
Chris.
it, 'cause
Thank you.
sound, I just know nothing about sound,
It's-
and it's not my level of expertise either.
And, if you have someone experienced in middleware, and my friend Danny, he is really competent in both middleware and hooking up stuff in Unity with the middleware. So if you have someone like that, then you will never need to know these things, because you have someone in that position that can, which I think that's where the industry is going. You need to know it's not only being a great composer, it's also knowing middleware and also helping out smaller teams with hooking all these things up. So I think you should expect these things from your audio guy, whoever that may be in the future when you tackle on a bigger project.
Awesome.
Cool. Alrighty then, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.